Hey, how are you today? I am Brenda G. Power. It's been a wonderful weekend. We are going to be talking about when your child self comes out, even when you are an adult. 58 years old. And how am I being? How is my little self being? How am I being an adult? How are you doing? This is Medicine Woman Solution. And there's patterns. There's patterns to life, and a lot of us have not learned how to heal the emotions, the emotional body. We haven't learned how to get ourselves in position to be an adult. We may have aged, but have we actually learned how to process, develop our emotional intelligence? Have we been able to do that? And part of my job as a metaphysician is to begin to look at particular patterns, look at how you lose power, what emotion comes to the surface, what are you being, how are you being, and if things don't go right, are you going to be upset? How are you going to fix it or attract it, or how are you going to do certain things? So everything was going great this morning, and then life shows you challenges. Life throws you at you that you have a pattern that what starts to show itself in a particular way. So, how are you doing? How are you being? And I didn't get certain things. So here I said I didn't get to. Well, it's true. I ran out of time. I started to I wanted something in particular, but it wasn't working. I wanted it something to work. And so as I'm doing my best to solve it, time's ticking away. Um, Technical difficulty. How do you hope? So it's a pattern. It's definitely a pattern. And is it a healthy pattern? Well, it's getting healthier and healthier. So I'm only going to be doing one TikTok because I don't have the other phone. I believe I'm on Facebook and I believe that I'm on YouTube, but there's no way for me to find out at the moment because it's like nothing is lining up, which makes absolutely no sense. What timeline am I in? So I am Brenda Jean Power. I'm 58 years old. So I'm going to put myself into an alignment in my fixed state. Okay, help you calm yourself. So I've said my name. I'm going to now correct my energy of my Tanji pole. I am noticing I have people on YouTube. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. How are you doing? I'm going to check my other phones to see where I'm going live at and get myself in position. So, no makeup, no nothing. This is what you get. This is how my husband sees me every day. Do I have to criticize myself? Do I have to go into panic? Do I, how do I have to go into? And I don't. Am my camera ready? Well, it doesn't have to be perfect. It is what you see is what you get. There we go. So part of my pattern is I'm learning how to be more organized, which is not something that was in my space. Just checking to make sure all things are a go. And what are we going to do? Well, I'm going to accept for myself who I am. So this is what we're doing. I created a being. And then because AI is set at a certain intelligence, it all of a sudden decided it's not going to give me and then taking me all the instructions how to create one. Go get Canva, go do this. Go. I'm like, yesterday you made me a picture, today you're telling me you can't. Not because I've met my limit of generated pictures, but you can't. And so a whole new set of rules and all this and that. I'm like, okay, that's fine, that's fine. So did I react like a little child? No, which was good. So I moved on. So I emotionally didn't need to lose myself. And it's like, but how am I creating something so I can teach a particular lesson? Well, I have learned that with my medicine woman solution language, I can see 8 particular patterns, and one of them happens to be the attachment pattern. And we talked last week about 8, and this week we're going to take the one pattern and look at it and dive into what it looks like so that we can see what happens. So, have you ever seen or been around people that get so upset, get hurt, and then they start acting like a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old? Have you ever seen how, like, maybe they throw a tantrum or they're hurt? Hurt is a big thing. And understand that there's joy and then there's life's moments. This is what's called the interrupt. So, you with me so far? So, joy happens. You are what? Picking on your little sister. There's joy in that. Or you want to put your finger in the light socket. It's like, no. But you have this desire that you haven't learned how to understand it. So you're going to have to go through, hi, how are you? And if you never got a reading from me before, I will give you one free. Just let me communicate with you about the topic. So the attachment topic. So again, let's say you do little annoying things, other people get overwhelmed. You get overwhelmed because they're overwhelmed. The environment is overwhelmed. And we stay in those interrupted moments of life. We would like to get back to the joy state, but because we are children and are corrected by authority, parents, siblings, from the child's point of view, their brain has not fully developed to have this cognitive ability to logically think, to logically understand. They are basing it on yin and yang, in action or inaction. Emotions is what they speak. Energy is what they are. Children see with energy. They look at it. How fast did that come in my face? How did it come like a big truck? And so now you can paint pictures. It sounded funny. Your auditory system gets involved. You're feeling this. And usually the two particular emotions will be love or fear. Now, under fear is another particular two set of emotions that seem to direct how you are going to be developing or create the interrupt in the joy flow. And you will feel hurt. So, guilt and shame. Now, children only understand, again, energy. And boy, do they understand gestures. My mother would give me a look. And boy, did that hurt. Usually your first emotions when you're being corrected, parented, or whatever it is you feel hurt, you feel crushed. Your heart is like, oh my God, just, okay, you feel hurt. Now, was it a trauma? Was it a drama? No, it don't have to be. It could be. So I had children, and the boy and the girl were different. I told you, I think, last week, and it was, I would turn my back to do dishes, and the little girl would not see me. So their brain, their cognitive, the way they feel, the connection, the belonging, the needs of a human being, whether you're a baby or an adult, is to be loved, to be accepted, to be invested in, to be cared about, to be nourished. And we usually feel abandonment, okay, which can cause a whole lot of pain. Okay, you with me so far? And yin, when you look at the way yin responds to, it is to be that passive aspect, and yang will be this action aspect. So you'll see certain people explode. Don't matter what gender they are. It depends on if they are choosing yin or yang. Okay. So yang may be an outward expression, and yin would be a inward expression. But if you were an adult raised by adults that are acting like little kids, and the adults have no emotional intelligence, emotional intelligence, what happens? What do I know? What do I mean by emotional intelligence? I'm not talking about how book smart you are. We do have an emotional body, and it is very important to know that by this emotional body, you have joy, and then you have the interrupt, where the very first thing you need is safety. And when you experience feeling unsafe, and the environment is a threat, your system, your nervous system says, because instead of love, it drops down below it, at below 500. And if it drops down below 200, then it can really, really hurt, HERTS, because the HERTZs are dropping. And so it then dictates to what it is you're feeling and experiencing. And this you don't understand as a child, but the emotional intelligence, the emotional body begins to feel. How do we interact with the world, and how do we create pictures, and how do we function? These are all very much important. Okay, they really are. So when your needs as a child, you feel unsafe, usually you're met with a correction, a parental correction, but you don't know that. All you know is love, not love. And if the parent is emotionally, the word I had you guys look up? The emotional intelligence. If your emotional intelligence is low, you're going to be hurt more. If your emotional intelligence is low, you're going to throw more tantrums. And this is where, when you grow up, you learned about blaming yourself and then blaming the environment. But this is where the emotions of panic, love can't come in because you have an interrupt. You're like, I feel unsafe. I'm bad. The child tries to escape the feeling. I don't want to hurt. So it projects out. That's a yang energy, not a penis thing. You understand? It explodes. It ejects out. It panics. It tries to escape the feeling. Okay. So as it projects out, it projects to protect what? Their identity. They're developing it, but it is, they know every day when they wake up that this is them, and they're learning that that's you, and they're learning, right? So to protect themselves, their identity, because they feel the threat, because you presented yourself as less than love, and they only know that it hurts, then what do you do inside your mind? You start going into the hero's journey. You need to, I'm a good person, they're bad. So your brain begins to decide if it's going to work together. And if not, most of the time you're in your left brain. And it has been proven that if the brain is cut in half, the two hemispheres, and you say to the right brain, show it the word walk, and then you display it with your fingers on the left side, and then you ask the left brain, why are you walking? It doesn't know. It just comes up with a story. It's because I was thirsty, so I got up and walked. But it wasn't the truth. But it is how we work in this organic suit. It is how the two halves of the brain work differently. But your emotional body is picking up the signals, And part of your spiritual growth is to understand that the emotional intelligence may be low. That the way that you react, you respond, do you do it inwardly or outwardly? Do you do it explodingly, or do you take it in on yourself? These are all the spiritual awakenings. This is all the stuff that you are choosing to do, right? But if you're stuck, and let's say I'm 58 acting like a 3-year-old, what do you think that's going to look like? Use your imagination. I may get emotionally frustrated, be upset, yell and scream at the devices I have, or the people that were supposed to support me. You should have been there. Da, 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 da. We don't know how to regulate the emotions, but we also don't know how to regulate the mental, the wording. So we go inside and we do things outwardly to protect ourselves. It's your fault. 1 finger pointing out and 3 pointing back. You've heard that one. Yes, yes. So when you're in your spiritual growth pattern and you begin to see this, one of your end goals is, who do I want to be when I grow up? I don't care. I'm 58 years old. Who do I want to be when I grow up? And that is, I want to be a good friend, or I want to be neutral, or I want to be Sigma, or I want to... It is learning that the day-to-day actions where your joy was interrupted as a child and where you got stuck as an arrested development, the outward information is going to be how your inner world has connected and is stuck in the interrupt. And so you will then get mulligans, do-overs. You'll have different characters. Maybe your mom and dad are dead, but passed on. And then, but you have a husband, or you have friends, or you have whatever it is. You get to, these souls get to raise their hand and say, okay, it's my turn now to present information. And it will be determined on your aura. Oops. Your aura can be expand, and that's love, and it's out there. Or when you feel threatened, hurt, you will extract it, and it'll shrink in. And your aura, that's go from tip to tip, or even around the world, all of a sudden starts to come in and push the energy and condense the energy. So your aura gets smaller and smaller. And it can actually begin to physically hurt because it's energy. So now your aura is small, okay? And here you are interacting with the world, but you can't see what you need to heal, to address, and to do. So then we have what's called the interference pattern. And that is, you attract in that particular frequency. You are meant to see what you attract, what things that you have lost your energy to, because you need to get out of spiritual debt. You need your life force back to help this physical form. So the scalar field is the shared difference. It is your aura, their aura, and where your auras cross and is this scalar MWS, Medicine Woman Soultion scalar field. It is what's in between. Now, when this energy has no boundaries, no healthy boundaries, it will have unresolved continued story boundaries. And then when it crosses with another, then it is, if you're passive, then they have to become aggressive. If you're, well, they never liked me, you will have to attract people that didn't like you, or that seems that they don't like you, but you will have to attract. Now, what's weird is that when you heal backwards in the healer's journey, which is what I teach, you're going to get to the stage where all of a sudden you're treating people badly because that was a part of you that you rejected, put on your shadow, your mask, because that's what's accepted by the people around you. And you'll begin to treat people very unhealthily because you were treated very unhealthily, and you are only going to repeat what you learned. So it's going to start blowing your mind because your brain has to reject things that are not normal and the things that are so weird. But in spirituality, you develop your higher self, connecting with your higher self and learning a new language, a new way of being. And here is this particular thing. So you're a child, now you're an adult, but your emotional intelligence, your mental intelligence about how you are on the hero's journey has been stunted at those moments. So you're living in the interrupt, the arrested development. And so you're only going to emotionally usually respond either yin or yang. Inwardly be quiet. When I, in the past, have been emotionally attacked by gaslighters or people that wanted to feel like everything's threatened, so they have to project out, and they have to inflate their ego, and then they have to punish me for the way they feel. And then they have to make the narrative so that I will feel guilt and shame. It took a while for me and my nerves to understand that they were just reacting in attachment pattern number one. They will withdraw, but explode at the same time. They will punish and narrative stacking, which is referred to as my intolerance tube. You look over, you're in the negative state, so you can only attract in proof. They're that way. Proof. They're that way. So then you start to, oh, this is starting to get on my nerves. Oh, they did it again. And so then you will build this up until you're like a tea kettle that's boiling and you have to blow your top. This blowing of the top is usually anything under the age of 7. So, but it is the mental capacity, the cognitive skills that you may be able to think thoroughly think it out, think it through, but you may only choose to do the left brain, but not use the right. As an adult, you have to use both halves. As an adult, you have to process these emotions. But if you don't, you're going to go into a very attachment pattern. And why is it an attachment? Well, if you are stuck into, I'm hurt, I don't believe in people, people are mean, then you are withdrawing as a child. But as you grow up, then you are looking for it to show up in another person. And when they display it, you can say, I'm right, there it is. And then stay in the pain. But the growth to be had is when you start to realize it has nothing to do with them. And it has everything to do with you. Now, this is where it can get tricky, but this is where you are meant to look. How are you emotionally reacting? I'm not asking you not to be emotional. I'm asking you to help your child to get out of the interrupt. That's the unresolved continued story. With me so far? So the joy is interrupted. You have an attachment wound. You feel unsafe. And you will shame yourself. Shame activation. I'm bad. Because everybody around us are gods because they do it right. We can't see it. This is where you get the problem. Pay attention here. This is where, as a child, they are right, you're wrong. You don't question who they are. This is where, when you grow up and you have what's called enemies, and enemies go up there and they tell one slight truth with a whole bad story, and you believe them. Oh, you're ugly because blah, 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 blah. You're not ugly, but they're the enemy, and you believe them. Why do you believe them? Well, they're right. Are they? No, they're not. But you are looking and processing it through the interrupt, which is the little child. Now, and because you can have a whole jar full of, and I wish I had them here, whole jar full of wonderful words. You know these things about yourself. You believe in yourself. You have confidence. You have self-esteem. And you get a whole jar, but in this jar, it's empty. And all of a sudden, this is a positive and this is a negative. And it takes only one person to go, oh, I don't like them for whatever reason, or they didn't show up the way they were supposed to, so therefore I have to punish them. And what does this mean? It means then they will say with their eyes, gestures, tone of voice, and maybe certain words, but you see the energy, and it'll drop in this jar. One, boom. You will destroy all of maybe the thousands of positive things you have, which is the truth. And you look over here and you hyper focus on the pain. You can't process this because you don't have any healthy ways of doing it. And this is why I'm here, is to help you have healthy ways of processing. But you can't stop hyper focusing, and fear takes you down the road. Fear becomes your leader. And you look at this and they're right. And so somebody comes along that is not your enemy, tries to tell you something. You think they're full of BS because this is the truth. It's not. But pain becomes the master. So the child feels unsafe, don't know how to process healthily, blames themselves. They want to escape the feeling because now your cells, your 50 trillion cells that make up the community of you, instead of being open and having nourishment and joy, peace, and happy, they will start to move away, and then they'll close off. And this is stress. And then this is where the body begins to not have enough energy. It'll starve because it's not getting the nourishment. And this is where you feel unsafe. And this becomes the thing in your environment. And then you have to build a life around it as you age. So you have to protect that identity. So if that means you have to take down this happy part of you and stuff it away, you may lock it into a dungeon chained up with duct tape. Okay, you literally don't know what to do, but you mentally feel like you're in a prison. I can't think, I can't talk. Because this is your process. The pain is trying to process. The punishment, the hurt is processing. You are processing not from a healthy place. Again, my job is to give you tools so you can help your littles begin to grow. Okay, you with me? So if you stay here too long and everything is fine in your environment until you see that that person is annoyed by you, or this person can't stand something, or this person is doing their shit show, and all of a sudden you will remember that wound, that attachment pattern, that wound. You will begin to feel unsafe. You will then go, oh, they're blaming me, they're hurting me, they're doing this, and they'll panic and but you're trying to protect that identity, and you're trying to protect your feelings, but yet at the same time you're trying to escape your feelings. And as you try to protect yourself, you start pointing fingers. Now you have to go through this hero's journey where you have to inflate, I'm good, they're the bad person. Oh my God, I can't believe this. You feel this I can't be in the space, so you go very yin in withdrawal, or you get very yang and explode and then withdrawal. um or I have to act like this to survive, even though that's not what I want to be when I grow up. So child self reaction inside of an adult body is an arrested development. You have joy that's interrupted, so you become the interruption. You can't solve it, resolve it to move on. So you start building a life around it. Now, at that point, shame is activated, this emotion, and you can be controlled by shame. You can shame yourself, another person can shame you, but you will start, thank you, universe. I'm going to need more shame to understand it, to understand where I lost my life force and now going into spiritual debt. But you don't know this. You have to wait till you get to an adult stage. Then you have attachment panic, your emotionally punishment, the projection, the narrative stacking, or intolerance tubing. The child's hero's journey is like, okay. Yep. I have, and it's a process that you had the outside attack. Now, I'm not a bad person. Next time I'll say this, and yeah, and I'll hurt them too, and or I'll belittle them, or because you learn that's how you borrow it from how adults do it when you were little, and you will start to save face, and then you start to feel better, and you've talked yourself into who knows what. I'm good. You're bad. You'll give them the cold shoulder. You'll feel awkward. You don't want to do anything. You'll have dramatic statements. You'll have a meltdown. You may explode, withdraw. But these are attachment pattern number 1. Now, all that can be evolved. And you'll see it in relationships. And they're not acting from the age that they are. They're acting at the age of the interrupt. And this is the only way you can make someone show up to you, is that when you drop from your higher self and go into the interrupt, the unresolved continued story, that is the perception, the perspective, that is the beliefs, that is the fear, that is the, I gotta protect myself. You are the wound. And the wound is protecting you. Well, it's fear, right? The nervous system is doing it through child logic. You do not have the capabilities until after 7, when you start to cognitively begin to grow and you start to have different experiences that allow you to function. These are not meant to hurt somebody. They're meant to protect you, but it can hurt other people, especially if you're blaming and saying it's all of them. But it's also a survival. Living by the seat of your pants, survival. It is self-preservation, it's survival. So when an adult behaves like a 3-year-old, they enter the child's hero's journey. The child thinks to itself, I'm hurt, I don't want to be hurt, it's their fault, I must act like this, I'm good, they're the bad person. Now this is the child's hero's journey. This is the child's survival recovery process. And the cells, the body's consciousness is saying, okay, the child doesn't understand, but we have to get out of this stress state because we need nourishment. We need to feel safe again. So they'll borrow from the environment of how adults do it. Instead of, when I grow up, this is how I'm going to raise myself. So when the cells of the body conscious want to feel safe again, the child thinks, okay, if I punish, I withdraw, I blame, I attack, I flip the narrative. Why? Because the cell is saying, I need to protect myself. I am safe now. I have got to get out of this stress state. I'm a good person. I'm not the bad one. The cells then feel, oh, yeah. See, if you're coming from the child's perspective, if you're an adult, then the emotional and mental intelligence hasn't grown enough. You are living by your program and not by your spiritual higher self. You guys following along? So when we withdraw and protect ourselves, we escape and reward ourselves. We fumble around to the awkwardness. My sister would just give me the cold shoulder. She would withdraw. She'd be quiet. She would shut down. And she refused to connect. And then she'd go over and say, Mama, good girl, da 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 da. She's the bad one. And then, so there's an avoidment, okay? Avoiding attachment, the punitive attachment. And these particular patterns are going to show up as, this is my sister. And then when you get older and you watch somebody you care about do this to you, it's familiar. Why? Because you don't remember. Usually by the time you hit hormone stage, about 13, you will forget. It's part of the nature of how you get older, and you will forget. But I'm teaching you that it's not that you have to completely remember it, but you already are doing it over and over. Now, if you can feel it and understand it and get a little knowledge behind you, then you can go, oh my God, I married my sister. Oh my God, not in a stupid, crazy fear way, but the familiarity of the pattern, the familiarity of the what you are doing. So to a child, it's a big ordeal. I must defend myself. I feel unsafe. I feel unloved. I feel abandoned. I feel exposed. And these emotional body, if you can't get it, but you need it, you may attach yourself to a family member or an outside member, or develop, I need to have my passy 24/7 because I don't want to be alone and I'm afraid. And when you look at a child's way of thinking, usually around 3 to 7, it is this black and white thinking. I'm good, they're bad. You will inflate yourself and devalue others. And it is how you protect your hurt. This is why you have so many children's hero villain stories. You heard the stories. Cinderella. Well, just look to Disney and Pixar. And the trials and the test stage that a person goes through is that they've already gone through the process, but the child chooses survival strategies. Okay, I will attack first to protect myself, or I'll withdraw, or I'll punish, or I'll cry, or I'll give the cold shoulder, or I will say something so much that it hurts and I can see the hurt in their eye. It worked, because you can't have empathy for another. You'll narrative stack. You will have build intolerance tubes. And as you start to go, oh, I'm going to do this next time, it becomes very explosive, maybe externally, or it implodes internally, and you start developing a cough, or you start developing that you get hurt all the time. One thing I learned is when I was a child and as I was growing spiritually, it was you can never blame the one that hurt you. Really, you can't, because it's too dangerous. It's the unsafe. It's too dangerous. I can't do what I need to do. I can't stand up. I can't say something. Hi, I can't. And so you will go through this vicious cycle, a defense cycle, and you will do it in reversal, and you will go through all different ways of finding a strategy that your cells tell you that you can feel safe. So if you felt shame, then you'll trigger a projection so that that'll be your defense mode, and then you'll hurt others because you don't know and understand. And that RTJP, that right temporal junction parietal lobe, that thinks what other people think, does not understand the full capacity of the empathy of another person. So you go through this particular thing. So in a child's hero's journey, inside of adult's body, you do these little mini journeys about child self-survival patterns. I am hurt. This is your call to adventure. You felt rejected, criticized, exposed, unsafe. You feel that you're in danger. I'm in trouble. I am bad. This is that hyper-vigilance of defense. Then as the child begins to, I don't want this, it's refusing the call to grow. And it says, I don't want to hurt. So when you are interacting in shame, discomfort, correction, and boundaries come up, this then the emotional intelligence, the emotional immaturity pattern will appear. And then very quickly it'll be crossing the threshold. It's their fault. It's their fault. The child cannot blame the caregiver because it's too dangerous. So you blame the next person that's next to you, or you project and accuse. Hi, Kylie. Give me a moment. I'm in the middle of teaching at this moment. I'll be with you in a second. Next, I'll act like this. So then you go to trials and tests. You will take off what you can't display, because the environment could have contempt in it, and your body goes, oh my God, I'm triggered. It has contempt. I can't show this part of me, and I know what to do. I take off my joy and I put on the shadow. I'm a good girl, or I have to behave a certain way. And inside you're scared. Your nervous system is saying you're scared. You've been here before. We haven't resolved to evolve this. We haven't healed instead of you dealing instead of healing. You then try to inflate yourself and devalue others, and you create this hero villain story. This is where your enemy comes from. I'm good, they're bad. Now, this is so tricky because I was told by my sister that people didn't love me and nobody really wants to be your friend. They just want to hurt you. And I had a hard time making friends because I was taught not to trust. I was taught that my sister was the only one. I was taught that everything was all safe, unloved. And so I always felt abandoned and alone, but I learned to live this avoidance life. But what am I going to be when I grow up? Are you with me so far? So what's the emotional truth? When you're hurt, it usually has nothing to do with that you're bad or you're cruel. You know, some people may not be intentionally hurting you. You're scared, you're ashamed, you're overwhelmed, you're unregulated, you're stuck. Your nervous system answers for you. You will feel and react and then give words. And then you have to live by this auto response. And you have to reenact this story in order for your soul to say, can you heal it now? So when the adult behaves like a 3-year-old, because the joy was interrupted and their development became arrested at the age of the wound occurred. They are not reacting as their adult self. They're reacting from their child self. And this is beginning of the hero's journey inside of our head. Why we blame. It's too dangerous. You don't understand. You don't have the cognitive abilities. But you can't blame the people that you love. You can't really blame them, really. You're like your mom and your dad. You're just like, it's too dangerous because I want them to accept me. I want them to love me. I want the very thing that I see missing when I get punished. So we try to logically make it, oh, you will choose them. You will not be a good person. And so it will come from the logic will come from the unresolved continued story, your child self. So what are you doing as an adult is that why we use the tools of success, hope, therapy, source point. And when you guys come to tribal, you are learning how to regulate your emotions, how to when you feel hurt, you're learning to help heal these children or help the little child inside you to help heal itself so that your inner world changes and you get a chance to grow instead of being stunted. And the perspectives then change and your communication style changes and your ability to give and receive, you will start to feel safer. So you need, as an adult in your spiritual journey, is to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions. But it isn't through the ego, the age to which it interrupt, because as Einstein would put it, who remembers what Einstein said? And I'm going to paraphrase it. So the time that you created the interrupt, the time that your life is, all the information, all of the growth, you become limited. You cannot get the answers or really grow because it's not inside the program that the time is created. So you cannot create anything new. So what does Einstein say? You cannot use the same mind that created the issue because you'll just do it differently. I'll try this, try that, and then every one of them fails because it's the mindset. It is, you have to get past the set mind that is about protecting yourself, about seeing people as the enemy, and it's time to resolve these particular emotions and grow. You need to upgrade your cognitive reasoning, your emotional regulations, and your perspective taking. To take ownership, to accountability. So as a child grows, they're going to take offense because they're going to feel the energies. Why? Because if your parent is correcting you or if your family members are in a crap show for whatever reason, they may take it out on you, but you will know that it is less than love. So you can't help but to take offense. An emotional impulse, no regulation. And you don't know what to do with that energy because people throw or they invade or you match and mirror and become them and you don't understand this, but shame and guilt will drive you. You will think black and white, and part of you is supposed to grow out of that. You'll have abandonment issues. You will go into many ways of feeling. You will gather minions so they'll be on your side. You'll build an intolerance tube to protect yourself from those people. You will be in constant state of insanity, emotional overload, and the stimulation. And because you have these, again, you need to learn how to process. You need to learn how to stop going there and you need to raise your littles. We have to help people learn how to think differently, talk differently, and logically become something more so you literally can grow. And so if there is rejection, you're not going to be in pain. When somebody criticizes, you understand it's about them, not really about you. And when you won't have to feel like you're in constant danger. But we need to heal out guilt and shame. And I can see where guilt and shame is used to help a child begin to feel the empathy or to stop doing a behavior. But this is where we need to start healing it in ourselves so that we can spiritually become more evolved. So our physical body can stop having such physical issues because your physical can't take a hit until your spiritual issues are over. I mean, when your spiritual issues are just too much and you haven't grown and do any of that, they become spiritual issues. And then it goes to the mental and the emotional body, which then shapes this and then goes to the physical and you shape this. And the physical body says, oh, the environment has changed my cells. So now you look like this, you sound like this, you may be sick like that, and not even understand that your life force is stuck in the interrupt. So this is the very first conditioned personality pattern that I feel needs to be addressed. You guys understand what I'm saying? All right. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for liking, and thank you for going to YouTube and helping that algorithm. I appreciate you. Now, one of the things I'm doing, I'm studying on Facebook, and I'm thinking I'm going to do it on YouTube as well, are memes with healing tools on them. So, Spirit has been coming to me with songs in my head, and it gets stuck, and I'm like, roam around the world. I can't sing it, or you don't want penalties on your page. But you end up having these songs, and you may not remember all the words, and Spirit speaks in that fashion, and you working with your soul, like in your dreams, but you're doing it while you are awake. And songs can come from loved ones, it can come just directly from your soul. And then all of a sudden, as you work with your spirit, your higher self, you will then, oh, what are the emotions around it? So sometimes you have longing. Now, people think you just stay stuck in longing. No, that actually robs you of your life force. So I have been using the Success Hope Therapy tool. So the meme will be whatever it'll be, the music, lyric, and then you'll see musical notes, and then I'll have an expression, and then underneath it will be, like right wrist first position deep, and then the emotion, or left and with the emotion. And then it says measure and hold. And so my way of giving back to people is to teach them several different things. One, communicating with spirit. Two, how you can understand the lyrics. And if you are doing a particular emotion, then use the tool. You don't have to have the song, but you can relate to. It's familiar. I recognize that negative emotion. Mine's a 10. Oh my God. Yeah, Brenda says, hold this point. I'm going to do this. I'm going to measure the feeling, getting into it, and then all of a sudden I'm going to hold it for 15, 20 minutes, and then I'll measure it again. It's going down. Why? Why is it important that I teach you this? Oh, thank you so much, Vicki, for responding. Yes, you're enjoying it. Okay, have you seen it yet? So I got a couple. It takes time because finding a meme generator, or, well, I'll make my own memes, but anyway, I feel like if it works out, I'm going to continue to do them, or just put up memes in a certain way. But still, I feel like you guys need to be introduced more and more to this healing tool. It's time that we learn how to resolve to evolve, how to heal instead of deal. It's time that we can use this tool, and you guys got an advantage over anybody else. Okay. So if you hear it, give a good old thumbs up so that we can see it in YouTube, and give it a share out so that others can enjoy. And it helps this, the rhythm of the YouTube as well. And, if you're looking for a reading, 5, 15, 25, 25 gets you on the show. You're more than welcome to do so. If you want to pay it forward, or give out a shout out saying, hey, I want to give money so that so and so gets a reading. That's up to you. So we have April Lynn, which is wants a 15 chat, but it's also what spirit wants, and it's something she wants. Now, I've also been developing my style of cards that can help you the progression of your emotions, progression of your mental, progression, And so I had one, but I just wasn't for sure. So I keep redesigning. So are you here, Miss April, or have you gone to bed? Because she goes to bed early and then Has to get up real early in the morning. For anybody else, which looks like they said there's nobody else in this room, but if Kylie Bell, you are here, I will give you a reading. And if there's anybody else that would like a reading, that you haven't had one before, let me know. So is Miss April Lynn here? Okay, I'll give it a few more minutes to see. If some of you are like, well, I'd like to donate, but I can't get through to whatever TikTok, whatever it is, you just can go over to PayPal and paypal.me/reading11, and you should see as you put money in, Brenda Jean Power. How else do you give me ideas while we're waiting? What ideas do you have for me, like making a reel, a short, or what would you like to see? What would grab you besides me talking to you or at you? But I want, what can I do? So it was Spirit's idea about the memes and music and applying the healing tool. If you have anything, let me know. If there are particular topics that you're interested in, start talking about those in some form. So I'm going to go ahead and do Miss April Lynn. I don't see her, but I'm sure, if timestamp and go by the clock on behind me, that would be good. And now, what's unique is that I'm doing, like I said, communicating and learning a different skill, challenging myself in a different way. So if I look and say, what is it the soul wants April Lynn to know? It is to understand the fear of judgment. So if I were to say, like, where did this start to develop? Around 3 years old. And if I were to, so I have, I do use cards every now and then, but if I were to say 3-year-old, the fear of judgment, without any other, I'm just saying, like, give us a card, saying I'm asking Spirit. And, if I asked, like, where are they on the scale? I would say, so one of the things I can see is the nervous system and the way the language is and the way the identity mirroring stage. So the topic is fear of judgment around 3 years old. It's the moment the child spoke a truth and received as correction, shaming, or dismissal. So take a moment when you're talking and all of a sudden somebody corrects you. I want you to pay attention to, like, what does that picture look like? What does your face look like? What did it feel like? Or do you have a picture of the person correcting you? Shaming you. Go look up the word shaming, but dismissive. Your words. If you know that these what they're saying is dismissive, you may be afraid that if you speak up, then people are just going to come at you, because this is the mirroring, be dismissive all the time. So dismissive. And so you are then having that, oh my God, my identity, they're going to correct me, shame me. You're going to have all of this interrupt sitting there. And so then in your scalar field, somebody will come along and it will trigger those particular responses. So a person will come in with a particular signature of authority, will come in, which is, and I picked up was the um, the mental body. So the mental body will take that information in, And it will be interrupt in the mental body. It causes thought loops, internal narrative, the belief structure, judgment of the self and others, cognitive distortion because you can't connect with your higher self or heart brain coherence. And so then you will say, oh, I will hear authority voices. So you'll start feeling how much authority is over, and it'll be in your head. So you could heal these particular things, especially in the language and all of this. Now, as you're picking up this, the beginning stages of learning, this is the elevation of the fear. The emotional part of it can be a fear of judgment, fear of being wrong, the fear of consequences, the fear of misunderstanding, the fear of mental attack, the fear of speaking the truth, fear of thinking incorrectly. You'll have mental contraction. So your thoughts will contract. Again, you'll go inside and you will just be afraid. The thoughts or words can cause trouble. So your cognitive is that this equals this. So this oh my God. So now you don't want it to happen again. You don't want it to happen again. So you may create, that you're going to cut yourself short. You're going to censor yourself. You're going to correct yourself. And so that you won't have that particular thing happen again. And when you look at that, the fear of judgment, okay, so I'm putting in this information just so it helps me write it down because I'm trying to find a better way to, because I ran out of paper and I can't find my tablet's dead. So we know that it's the fear of judgment. And like today's topic, you have the attachment personality thing. So you have the compliant, the good child that will come out of it. So you can't display a certain thing. So you have to put on the mask that I have to be the good girl, and you will sit there and you'll fear of disappointing others. And so your RTJP will think about, okay, I've looked at what their face said, their gestures of their eyes, the tone of their voice. Okay. So they're disappointed, or you will then be afraid of wanting to be seen wrong, or you don't want to cause conflict, or have them evaluate and turn their attention to you. The fear of being too much, not enough, fear of being rejected. So today is that I am a good, pleasing, and non-disrupted. I stay safe. Okay, so the style of today's attachment, so when she's an adult, she will go through a particular thing and then she'll be the good girl, an automatic response, while all this other stuff is happening inside. So she's doing more of a yin thing, holding it in. And do you understand so far? You're pleasing, you're compliant, you're careful, you're quiet, you're self-editing, you're approval seeking. So the mental body, the wound that's in the mental, that shapes the personality. So in the mental thinking, how do we take care of that of mental thinking? It's like, oh my God, I had to suppress myself. I can't speak. Hi, how are you? And staying agreeable, avoiding judgment, and you will stay stuck in your head over and over and over. So when I ask Spirit about this fear of judgment, they go, the first thing that you need to do is become aware that what do you do when judgment's around? Like some people you have no problem with. Some people you can have more authority over if they give you judgment. And then It is when you are that little girl and you are fear of judgment and you go in and then this protective part of you comes out, this strategy comes out, and you have to put limitations on who you are around certain people because of the fear of feeling unsafe. Okay. And you need to begin to wake up to this. So for me to tell you is to hold R1D, right wrist first position, so very deep, because you need to do some spiritual homework of what do I mean by self-imposed limitations. So you are putting limitations on yourself that you cannot do or be. Oh, your power went out and just came back on. Okay, I'm talking about you. I'm giving you your reading. So you'll have to go back a little bit here. But the main topic was the fear of judgment. Okay, so you have this fear of judgment. And, but if you don't know you're doing it, um, the question is that you would be showing up. What did I say? 3 years old people? I'm glad you got your pupper back. Okay. So you are going to have, when I grow up, this is who I want to be. So spiritually, you're starting to maybe discover that you won't do these things. So if this fear of judgment came about when you were 3 years old, then part of the healer's journey, or also the way the hero's journey is that causes you to call us to action. You know, as an adult, you're tired of being careful around people, performing correctedness. You're done shrinking your truth. I'm done being evaluated by them. And you're like, but I can't keep living in for approval. I want to speak freely. I want to be myself. But the emotions, their restlessness, their frustration, that's quiet anger, grief of loss of authority. Okay. So I would then begin to say, if you were going to work on relentlessness, the frustration, the quiet anger, and the grief of lost authority, it's still going to be R1D, right? Wrist first position D. Because one, you're going to be looking at your self-imposed limitations, but two, you're going to look at how to survive as a child, you overcompensated and gave. Now you're an adult and you're like, I ain't going to do this, but yet the body still says that we need to survive from this. This is what we're going to do. So as you get older, without taking care of your little self, you're going to be more honest. But the mental body wound is you can do it to certain people, but other people you're like, oh my God, what if they judge me? What if I'm wrong? What if I disappoint someone? What if I look stupid? So you have these conflict within yourself of this fragment that you created and when the joy was interrupted. So you have this fragmented self. And so then we have to look at that fragment self of feeling the fear, the tightness, the self being very self-conscious, say shame or hypervigilance. I would then again still say it has to do with right wrist first position deep, R1D, because the lungs are about how you take in. And so we would want to begin at that level. Now, as you begin to start to take each of those words, the fear, the tightness, the self-conscious, the shame, the hypervigilance, and you measure them, you then can move down to the spleen, okay? And this is to face the fact that your joy got interrupted. Where'd my happy go? Right? So then you would go R2D, where'd my happy go? Now, this is where you need to get a little deeper and say, oh, it came when this energy came into my space and I feel little, or they said certain things to hurt me, but it's facing that hurt. It's facing that hurt. And it is allowing yourself to whatever you allow at that moment, one little step at a time. Okay, about facing that hurt. So if you didn't begin to heal the mental body, then your emotional body, you would then have to do it the hard way. You'd have to learn to speak up. You have to learn to set boundaries. You have to learn to say no. Now, you have to share your opinion, express a need, being invisible, being imperfect. But as you feel these things and you haven't healed these particular emotions, these particular interrupt, then it will be hard and you're going to do it anyway. You're going to step up and do it, but you're going to have all these other terrifying emotions and you may be successful in some and not with others. And then you'll start to realize maybe, I can do this. I had, because now you're looking at your limitations a little bit further. But it's not, it'll create growth, but you'll also create yourself to go backwards because you didn't take care of the root, the very first interrupt. And the story that came out of that pain from a 3-year-old's rational ability. People are going to judge anyway. But letting fear do that is going to, it's going to hurt you. So it's going to create anxiety, it's self-doubt, embarrassment, fear of exposure. And it'll limit your growth or your health or your ability to be as the strong, soulful individual that you are growing up to be. So I want you to stop. And then this is where you'll go R1S. Okay. After you've done all that healing, you're going to go to R1S and you're going to go, how do I know this? Because your little says, I'm scared. I'm judging myself. Now, the little doesn't understand that it just judged itself. But it stops and judges itself before it makes an action. It stops and makes a decision. I'm afraid of my own truth. I'm afraid that because I know I had my own truth and then the interrupt happened and bad stuff happened. So you're going to look at the history, the R1S. And your little had come up with, well, I'm afraid of being seen, or I'm afraid of being seen thinking, I'm afraid of, and this is where you're going to look at the history. This is how you talked yourself into staying into the grief, or this is the only way I know how to process, not in a very healthy manner, but it keeps the root. But at the same time, you're like, oh, you're going to be more relieved. And the body then doesn't have to keep holding and shaping yourself into that pattern. So your ego is, or your little self will say, my truth is not safe. But if you heal out that with R1S, you can stop the karmic debt. The karmic debt in this case, not the cause and effect as much as you're stuck in the effect side and you're stuck in the cause side at the karmic debt level of where you took your life force and left it in the interrupt. And so the loop continues. You then have to begin to hear these particular words. So R1S, my truth is not safe. And when you realize that you're healing it from the emotional chemical peptide level, what's automatically going to rise is that your life force comes back and it starts to reprogram saying, my truth is safe. And you're like, I don't have to edit myself. Now, you may have to understand the language of the flow of wherever you're at. You all of a sudden start to notice that you are seen and you're like, it's okay. I can be wrong and safe at the same time. I don't need to be this perfect person. The only reason I'm saying perfect is because I had this interrupt, and this interrupt kept telling me over and over that this person or these people or this, that, and but this is your return. This is your integration. This is important first. And the reason that you start to have this integration is because you heal all of the unresolved continued story of the wounds, the hurt, and you're transforming the mental language. Now, she said something. I got to get onto my big screen because first integration is important first. And the reason that you start to have this integration is because yep, I was talking. I'm afraid of making people angry. When they are angry, there is no longer time with joy. Exactly. So we're addressing that little inside of you, and your 3-year-old says, I'm at a stunted growth. Now I said, are you sitting side by side with the adult? No. Are you pulled off and thrown away? Yes. So how we processed is so important that you may have to go look for this child. What did you do with it? So when I had something bad happen to me and I couldn't process, it was driving me crazy as a kid, and it was really bad, that I picked it up and I threw it out in the field. So that was around 8 years old, 7 years old, or whatever. And then when I'm 30, my husband's driving, and I look over in the field, like, God, that looks familiar. And then all of a sudden, the part of me that I ripped out, came back. And I'm like, oh my God, I remembered what happened. And I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I called myself home. I'm glad because I was doing that type of work. Oh my goodness. But now you have to heal this little that says, I'm going to trust you. And so this is where your little will start living through your face, because the fragment itself is now living as an identity that's separate, but now has come to roost, but it can't bring its emotional baggage and emotional stories into the frequency that you are, but it will stand. And you have this old perspective, and this is where the healing tool, the time dialer, begins to help you dial correctly. But you can only use the time dialer when you are ready to, or you have done some work for, and you have to get into the correct, healthy, fixed state timeline. Okay. So there's a part of you that is not quite ready for the time dialer tool, but it is ready to look at the fragmented cell. Now, I'm going to tell you, and you are the only one that can decide where it is. What did you do to it? I had one fragmented of myself. Keep your mouth shut. So I put duct tape over it and I stuck it into the hairy cupboard in the basement. I kind of like left him in the dark. I can't display that. Here's my joy. I can't display that, so I started to be living as a disrupt, and every time I went to display that, I'm like, self-imposed limitations, correct self. And so then it would get me into trouble because we weren't supposed to show any emotion, can't talk back, can't, all these can'ts. And so I ended up duct taping her and sticking her in the basement in a Harry Potter cupboard just under the stairs, just kind of, but it was dark. And so I was only living with only parts of myself. So when I went in to do little girl work, or little child work, I had to go look for her. And I said, okay, I'm here. And I had to create a safe space. I don't know why this is not a tool yet. This safe space. And then I sat there as I saw myself sitting in a safe space, very much holding space, that it's all healed and they can have it too. And so then I realized that it was coming from the basement. So I went downstairs, sat there, and then in my mind, all of a sudden I realized where they were. So then I opened it up and I gave them a flashlight, and because that's what they asked for. And then so they started to get used to the light, and then they came out, and then they couldn't remove it because they were punished. So, and I was self-imposed. So I said, let's take that off. And I took it off. And then it didn't come off all the way. I said, how do you want to finish it? So I gave her the empowering tool of taking it off, wadding it up, and throwing it at the people, taking her power back. And this is where the cord switching came into play, and the treasure chesting if I couldn't face them. And then I started to get my life force back, and the interrupt started to get resolved. The root cause started to get resolved. So you're going to have to go look for her. You're going to have to go and go look for. Okay. And you have to have her, empower her to give her the tools to start to resolve. And if that means that she needs a tool to hold, say, just copy me, R1S. Okay. Have her feel, you watch her feel, let her measure. And if she's like, okay, this isn't enough, let me color. Let me, whatever she needs to do to get her power back. So when I begin to see that you need to help your little, so you said afraid of making people angry, you are not being the adult you are. So at this point, I would have you hold R2D because you're saying, I can't do it again. You've been here too many times. You were dismissed. You were hurt. You were punished. And so you stay there. You shove this person aside, but this fragment part of you is ready to live. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Okay. But you need to address the fact that she says we can't heal any further because I am not doing it again. But at the same time, she wants to do it again. She wants to do it again. What again? Punishment? The hurt? No. She wants to live again. She wants to feel whole again. She wants to be more than the issue. Oh, good. She's following. All right. So you have to also begin to notice that. So instead of just the automatic response, your body will start having triggers, but notice the automatic reject. It comes in. But if you can begin to notice that you rejected something out of your reality, or you rejected that behavior, you rejected this, you rejected that. So understand what you're doing is rejecting it by the certain simple words of protecting yourself. But when you begin to realize I rejected something out of my behavior, then you can move over to left wrist, second position, soft. Okay, I think that's plenty. Now, what's happening is like the end result. So you want to be more stronger. You want to remove guilt and shame. Your end goal is to have self-confidence, self-esteem, and that when people have guilt and shame to use, it's just going to slide off, and you're like, no, that I'm not accepting that. Okay. So very good. Now, Vicki, are you still here? Now, I'm not trying to shame her or guilt her, but she gave me a comment that was very encouraging to me about the memes I was putting up. And so I'm looking and I noticed that it was retracted. And all I could say is, why did you need to retract it? I'm going to tell you L2D. Okay. Left wrist, second position deep. You're welcome, Miss Lynn. So, Vicki, you gave me a very supporting help where others didn't know that they could have or should have or whatever. The point is that I'm looking out there to connect with that is the memes that I put up. Is it worth putting up? And you had given me, yes, thank you. That's awesome. Regardless of if you've seen them or not, you said it was a good idea. And it felt and it supported what my littles felt. And so this live example is that you need to, but if you really, you're just giving me lip service, it still worked, right? But if you retracted it because you judged yourself or your little judged yourself, then say, well, why do I need to do that? So help your littles out. And so one of the things that, if you don't mind, I will give you a reading, is I feel like in a way, just tell me if you want the reading or not. I don't need to go any further. I don't need to stick my nose where it's not wanted or warranted. So yes, you'll take it. You want a reading? All right. So one of the things is I feel like you are doing territorial. Okay. So territory is that when you're a 3-year-old and you have your territory, you claim this as yours, and you have to understand from a child's perspective that this is, you're in that space. And I feel like the correction process from a parent or parents or grandparents or an adult, some type of figure, I felt like around 4 years old, there's part of you that just felt like you were dumb. And I feel like you, even though they were an adult, I think they were emotionally immature and I think they were mentally immature. And so they were only coming from their own little 7-year-old self, and the energy to which they gave, you had received it as it was very excessive. And the way they sent it was, I have contempt. Okay, so an adult's throwing that energy of contempt into your space, your joy goes, I don't care how old you are, but the little inside you, your 4-year-old goes, I know what that means. Contempt means I'm supposed to, and then you have to start living by the root cause, by the interrupt, by how your child, because your child says this is the fragment that had to deal with contempt. So this is the part of you that's going to come up to protect yourself because it was the first experience. It was the first way that you responded. It was the first, because the first need to be transformed out. They are not the healthiest, but we can see them this way. So if the environment is contempt and the intensity of it is really thick, the emotional charge is really bad, and if it's aiming at you, then it's the direction. Hi. So you can say, oh my gosh, I'm in the interrupt and I could not show. So write it down. I could not show. So I have to put that away, create a shadow, put on the mask. Because what if that contempt was that they were in a shit show and you interrupted that? Okay, interrupted, but they couldn't get out of their childish behavior. And so all you could do was be on the receiving end. And the only way that you first could resolve it was, I will be a good girl. Or I'll. So as soon as you're an adult and you are being who you are and you start to express certain joy, especially around certain signatures, aka the dad, and even if your dad is not the one displaying it, but somebody else has displayed your dad, you could say, oh my God, that person's showing up as my dad because it's familiarity. And notice how you will have to go into self-imposed regulations, or that you'll have to withdraw, or you can feel the territory being crossed, or the invasion of energy across your territory. So you are responding to trying to survive. Okay. So if you were to take, and because you're working on the second chakra about relationships, and so I would then say R1S, okay, to where, how does the child holds contempt for another, or how does the child know contempt and knows how to strategically behave, and how that because you were treated this way that you may end up treating another that way and not know it. See, there's all these perspective and mirrors that are happening all at once, but you just have to fill. So take the contempt, write it out. And well, like for instance, if I were to take the word contempt and I go to the dictionary and say contempt means, then it says a powerful emotion, attitude, okay? Strongly disliked, disgusted, and a lack of respect for someone or something. So, you're like, okay, now remember, doesn't matter if they're an adult, they are throwing their energies and their emotional charge and everything. They may have looked at you with contempt. So you got a sender and a receiver. So as the person is throwing the contempt out there, you can feel the stinging emotional eviction. Okay, it signals you to be insignificant. It makes you feel automatically worthless, and you're beneath their respect. And so you can feel this intense shame, this defensiveness, this a cold distance. But notice how you know it feels unsafe. Okay. Now, it may not be as dramatic because you have been exposed to it for however long, since you're 4 years old, and so you become numb to it. The nuances, you just push it aside because you don't know what you don't know, and this is part of that level of learning how to have competency to, and you heal backwards from being such a professional at it to things that you don't know you need to know, and then you're like, oh, but I don't know if I want that when I grow up, and then you're learning. So we need to heal this interrupt to proceed forward. And you said, oh yeah, he did. So you will always have this lens in front of you, and you'll be talking to certain people, and that's fine. And then you'll see parts of yourself that you hid, right? Your fragment self. And then you'll end up treating them that way without knowing that you're doing it, because that's how you were treated. So you have to first do that particular mirror. And then you stop yourself and say, I don't want to do that. And you're learning to grow, but it can still come across that way because maybe they needed to be treated that way. And that's how their language is. And then you go on to how you catch yourself and you're like, I don't want to do this. So then you recall and reclaim your energy field. And you then say, I want to change this. I'm still going to say R1S. And then if you have kids or you're around people, how did you use contempt to correct, or to, because you would have grown up in the era where your parents were parenting you in a certain way. So you have to look at the inherited um, epigenetics, the behaviors, the certain ways of being, you understand? And so you're looking at many perspectives about contempt. And so if somebody's throwing it out there and they're very explosive, you may go in and you may shut down. And that might trigger them to be even more so. So now you need to heal how you can't cope with that trigger, that intensity, that, and you can measure that. You can look at that. So I would definitely say R1S, because you know it's in your space. You know that they're telling you have to act and be a certain way, and you're like, but I stop calling me, it hurts, and but at the same time, we need to get you out of what's called karma debt, which is you're always doing cause and effect, but you're stuck as the effect. And you're always causing it because you have to keep seeing it so that you can say, oh, I'm going to heal this now, so you can stop the repeat. So you go into karmic debt on top of spiritual debt. And we want you to get out of that. That's what they're coming down to saying. Okay, so start with your R1S. Notice when, like you were taught to learn helplessness, or learn to be defensive, or learned that you couldn't show it. However, your story is important. So don't just heal. Whatever comes to mind, write it down. Now, if it's doing just but conclusions, there's a part of you that has to say, wait a minute, do I really want to heal this? Because you'll have it as a safety blanket. But if you can see certain ways of statements that would control you, it's not about that you don't want to heal it as much as because you're trying to irrationally rationalize as a 4-year-old is, oh, that is how I was supposed to think when I grow up. I don't want to do that anymore. So now you have the emotions of saying, and the healthiest correction is, I call my energy back and I don't want to respond that anymore. It's thank you, Spirit, to show me how I can grow from this moment. Okay. Okay. Now, what are you clicking, Brenda? Heck if I know. Let me try this again. There is a person that we're going to bring on. Now, if you have any questions, can be hard to see and can be hard to understand, but watch the video a few times. That'll be up on YouTube. Like I said, the timestamp behind me is, will help you know where your reading is. And what am I looking for? I got to open this up. So hopefully Ayme will be ready in a few seconds and she will come on. I got to find the map, which is not it because now my response is, well, it's because they changed the way you get to your personal page. And every time I go to the messages, it brings up the wrong thing. And you're like, I do not like that. Okay. So when you think about today's show, when you really think about it, you have to understand that you are wandering around in the desert for 40 years, but you are choosing to work on spiritual issues by using and helping to heal the mental body, the emotional body, so that you help support the spiritual body to get out of spiritual debt and to end the karmic debt and to allow yourself to change how fast the turnaround time is, how your life force comes back, and you can connect more with your heart brain coherence and your higher self. And you get to see the world a little differently than besides through little children's eyes, which then changes why people would wander around in the desert for 40 years. Their ego of their old belief systems are fading away. We no longer need to do that because we are in the 21st century. We're on the back half of it. And oh, that's interesting. I don't hear you though. Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's keep talking. I think it's a little crumbled, but I think it might work.
Okay, otherwise I can turn this off
No,
and
no,
go just,
no. You're fine. You're fine. I can hear you now. Hi, how are you, Ayme? And
I'm good.
okay, so how can I help?
Yeah, there was a test this morning and I didn't realize it until I think you were talking to April Lynn,
Oh, okay.
because I forgot to bring this in last night.
That's okay. That's okay.
And the test was, am I going to shame, blame, guilt trip myself for not bringing it in? And I didn't do that.
Well, I could have also remembered, not at 1 minute after, to go get it, but nothing was cooperating this morning. And so I thought I'll just, instead of trying to control it, I will heal it and let it flow as it is. So, I could have also said, where is it? I didn't have, I don't know if you thought that I was holding it against you or at one point I felt like, oh, she's doing this to be, hold on, just listen to how the little child thinks. Okay. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, she's mad at me. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I did wrong. Oh my God, she could, oh, she didn't come and get it. She didn't, oh, she's, so how old do you think you were?
Maybe,
I didn't hear you. It's muffled.
maybe about 4 or 5.
Okay, we're going to take about 4. Okay. So when um, so I need you to kind of like document down, take and write down like the first realization that oh, I forgot to give her the phone. Okay. Was it a shock? What was it? And can you feel your face in your body, the intensity of it?
When I realized that um the phone was still in here, it was like, oh, I I forgot to bring that in last night. And it that part of me was like, oh shit, she's gonna be mad. But then I'm like, no, she's not. It was like just like split second of regret.
Okay.
Um and then I'm like, oh, she's gonna use the other one. That was my logic because of the other
Right.
one.
But uh, Facebook was removed off of here, so I couldn't sign in. I didn't have time to get the app. So I had to use my phone over here, which normally would take and do the new TikTok. And so again, it's just wasn't aligned the way I want it. And it was like, okay, that's fine. Okay. So there was so why did you need to tell me? Is because did you lose power? So the question is that the way you described it, did she lose power? Um, what it did do was you're learning to check the habit of the
Hmm.
way that you would have normally abused yourself. So if we take today's number one attachment personality, because you remain neutral, there was no malice, rejection, or judgment. Um, this was normal. And if something goes wrong, it must be about me. Now, you could brought that operating system up. You could have done that, but you didn't get any more clues from me that it was wrong. Did you or did
Right.
not? Okay.
No, I did not.
So basically, you thought a particular thing, you waited for the other stuff to come up, but I didn't sit there and give you a dig or tell people to dislike, or I didn't do that, correct? I didn't minionize it. I didn't throw my hurt at you. So, um, the first thing that came up was you scanned. Did I do something wrong? Did I do it incorrectly? Oh my God, that must bother them. Oh, so noticing the questioning, that's why I asked you to go through it. Um, because the mental body is, is just as involved as the emotional body. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, part of the emotional distortion, you could have in the mental body said, oh, they might judge me. Just notice how it might instead of they are. Okay. They might think that I caused them to be annoyed or being frustrated or didn't, again, set of questions. You said, I checked my emotions, right?
Hmm.
Now, when you checked your emotions, walk us through this again. You notice that, oh my God, I forgot to give them the phone.
It was like, oh, okay. Um, there was no real, oh my God, I didn't denigrate myself like I would have.
Very good. Very good.
I didn't run to the end of the timeline. Oh, she's gonna be pissed at me for the rest of the day, blah, blah, blah. Like in the past, I would have done that.
Right. Okay. You didn't shrink in either.
No,
Okay. And you didn't explode outward.
nope.
You know me enough that I'm not going to harm you, so you didn't really see me as a threat.
Mm-mm.
So if somebody was to do this and you um another person that you are helping, whatever, and you forgot and they took it personal and they just assumed you were sabotaging or you weren't there for them or they were exploding at you. Now,
Hmm.
you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a part
Yeah.
of you that just, so as that happens, there's a part of you. So when you were little, and I'm just going to think about the one that was in the wheelchair, okay?
Hmm.
Your nicety, like when I was little, a part of me was like, I went up to my sister to get in a car accident and I was being nice to her and she exploded all over me. Now, as a child, it just hurt. It hurt so bad I didn't want to be around them anymore. Um, but are you the type of person that goes within, or do you explode back? Do you
No,
do
I
both?
usually go with this.
Okay. And if they are still hurt and pursue, then you would probably bring out bitchzilla, correct?
Hmm.
That's a
Yeah.
normalcy of what can happen. The thing is that as you learn to grow, you're going to want to be around people that make you feel safe. So the question is, do you feel unsafe around them? It's not a matter of, oh yeah, they're going to intentionally hurt me or they're going to do any harm to me physically. It's just that you don't know how to handle yang energy. So about what age would you be when that person was in the wheelchair and was just had emotional immaturity, whereas
I want to say probably six and a
okay.
half.
So when I look at this now, I'm also looking at the age of 12. So we'll take the 6, but there was an incident of 12. And it taught you to be back away so you wouldn't invest your energy or want to get close to this person. So you would have distance relations at best because you feel the lack of power when you're around them. Now, as you're an adult, they still treat you the same way. The lack of power, they feel they have the right to do what, and they kind of relationship is that I'm your parent. Whereas you have other people that want to be friends and you took the same lesson, the same response, the same way, and applying it to them. And the problem is they're not the same people. But your little does
Right.
not know that. So who was in your world at 12 where you took that perspective when you were little and you said, oh, you are just like my brother. Therefore, I am going to put limitations. I couldn't do it with him, but I can do it to you.
There's one thing that pops up with my dad, but I'm not sure if that's it.
It could be. It could be because you are more petrified of your brother than you were of your dad. And your dad, you're like, well, this is what you get. You don't deserve anything. And then happily chose sides. Happily. But I feel like you also treated this person that is because you were taught this is how you're supposed to treat people. So you can't handle their exploded energy. What's the difference between dad and brother? Exploded energy.
Um, Brother would explode more than dad would.
Okay, so you would be nice because you don't want that abuse. And dad was a throwaway because you learned that from who?
Mom.
So your connection to connect with males, or I should say, just connecting with people that explode because that's what they do. Would you say you know how to process, or would you say I go into fear and then I
Going to
process
feel
that way? Okay. So the part of your stunted growth and the things that you learned is what now you have to process. So what you need to do is start working with your heart. So your identity of your heart is to say so you can hold L1D, but how I handle when people explode. I want you to notice and let the little come up that this is what I'm supposed to do. I was taught, I borrowed, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to care. I'm supposed to shut that off. I'm supposed to survive. I am going to do what my mother does. I'm going to do this. Did your mother also say that you had to obey your brother?
Um, I think so because he was the eldest.
Okay, so you have to, work with the eldest. You have to, when you're little, when you're getting babysit, listen to your brother. Some of these rules get stuck in there and they don't ever go away. Does that make sense? And then I feel like your mom's coming to me and keeps telling me that I did it again, that she needs to listen to her brother because it was about the safety of your life and how you're going to support yourself, take care of yourself, and that your brother
Hmm.
knows best and that you need to do what your brother says because he will keep you safe. Did she say something similar?
I think so. I
So
don't
notice
remember. I'm sure she
notice
did.
how you can't disobey, but you are. But notice how you can't or couldn't, but you had to be feel unsafe by speaking up to be yourself. You're 54 years old and you are just now learning how to be yourself without fear of people. But your fragmented self, going all the way back to when you were little, when you had to deny your own name, how are you doing on
Yeah.
that?
Um, it's still processing that one.
Right. And there's a part of you that's trying to forget that one. And I can feel the
And
walls going back up to your lesson that you learned. So that tells me that the little part of you is saying that I'm irrelevant. And when they get all upset and do explosive energy, not only am I not irrelevant, I've also used it to keep myself safe. I have to do it to others because it was done to me. These unconscious programs, and the heart is saying, my identity is this pain. But is it true?
no, it's not.
Well, how do you know that? AY does, but your little is the one in charge. Your fragmented self is in charge. So it's going to treat people a certain way, irrelevant, when you
She
feel the fear.
just realizing that the person that I was talking to last night, that was their story, not hers. She's just realizing that she's like, shit, no, that's not true.
So notice what you had to do is to call somebody in to give you a story so you could recognize yourself, the old story. So you reinstalled. Remember, I told you to watch out for the brain rejecting.
Yep. Yep.
So the old identity, you don't want to give up. So now you have more of a description of what this identity is. The question is, do I need it? Do I want it? And why did I have to create it? Because I couldn't cope, handle, deal, and process and manage and pacify the energy of another. So that becomes your coping tool. This identity becomes your coping tool. But do you need that coping tool anymore?
No.
So you have to look at the tool. I need to keep this story. I need to keep this pain. I need to do this. And this is my coping tool. And I don't give a rat's ass about the other person, but that's not true because when I grow up, I want to be Sigma.
There's
You
a certain
cannot,
amount.
okay, because
I
you're
don't want
holding
to.
the
I don't want to
conflicting
be that way.
stories. So notice again, pay attention to how you're little. Let's go back to before the phone call. There was this part of you that was like, I got to process this, and is my little. And at the same time, your little projected to the universe to bring to you. And it started to feel familiar when they started to speak it, and you identified yourself and you started to fit and belong. Can you see how you're putting it on again?
Mm-hmm.
Notice the automatic response. I was confused at first, and then the way your party was like, but we know how to solve this because we did it at 16 or not, is it 16 weeks? No, 6 weeks old. I already know how to solve this. And so it brought to you, and you're like, ah, oh. Can you feel how you were settling in? Ah, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
accepted this again.
Yeah.
But you have to help that little stop going into automatic response. Because you felt love was unreceived. You could identify with the part that hasn't been able to come out, going, the people that I love, they were immature too. They're not taking responsibility. Your brother controlled a lot of the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So did other people through school. And we're
Yeah.
not going to name names as much as what we're doing is helping you understand. It's not about calling somebody out. It's about your feeling and recognizing where these emotions that have been controlling your world for so long, do these emotions, your reactions to stay safe because you feel unsafe, or that you have to constantly hold this threat that this is the outside world. And certain people you're going to be drawing in, which is they're hurt too. So that's you when you're a kid being hurt. And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, but that hurts. Why do you have to feel unsafe? I'm not a bad person. But all you can see is, yes, you are. But then you've been on the other boat, other shoe's foot when you were 6 weeks old, going, but I'm not a bad person. But you don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
But you picking up everybody else's beliefs, everybody else's emotion. You're getting love from
I
the
just heard I
crowd.
don't need to.
What's that?
I just heard I don't need to hold that.
Correct. So the wound of saying I hurt, is it still have to be the intensity that I hurt, or can you be okay to use a new tool to process it out so you don't have to go into self-preservation? I can't handle other people's energy. That's what you need to focus. How you're thinking that you're supposed to manage other people's emotions so they feel better. Listen to that last statement I said.
I just heard I don't have to do that.
Good. But notice how it was how to keep myself safe as I'm supposed to manage their emotions.
Mm-hmm. That's what it was growing up. Yeah.
They're saying it's my fault that they're upset. They're saying that I'm not being a good person in so many ways.
And that's so not true. My mother must be here.
Yeah, she is. I'm twiddling with my hair. But joy was interrupted by their adult self being imprisoned by their little selves, coping and handling, dealing with life's pain, and turning to you as a baby to comfort them. How the heck does a 6-week old even know how to comfort?
They don't.
And if they're stressed and then you're crying because they're stressed, because any animal or child or person will respond to the energy to which is being put out. And if people don't understand what I'm talking about, just look at any dog, bird, or animal that sits there and goes, ah, because They don't know what to
Mm-hmm.
do with it because to them it's very scary and monstrous. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's just that you have very low emotional quotient, a very low mental quotient. Because your little is saying, I was created to deal with this type of life. I went through this. It's my first reactions and first saving myself. So when you start to age and you get bumped up to this particular emotion, it is meant to call this age up because it's already been there, done that. But you are now saying, you know what? I need to heal this, take care of the emotional baggage, let the integration of my ages so that my kids can be little and be kids. And it's not their responsibility to regulate others. And other kids have to stop doing is that they're projecting out, protecting, hurting others so that they can avoid these particular pains, but that's how you also end up not having friends because you understand these emotions become you do all of these, you have a fragment for all of these.
Mm-hmm.
And so right now your little, the one that came with your birth name, has a lot of baggage, and your job as a spirit being is to help unpack it. Do you need to be the identity that thinks that they cause heartbreaks?
No.
Do you think that you have to push people away and go numb because their invading energies hurt so damn much? Because you already know that if you explode like they explode, then it gets even 10 times worse.
Mm-hmm.
So
It
you
was
have
the
got
idea.
to,
Wait, what? I don't have to? Cool.
so you have to get your life force back at all those ages. So just call yourself back, ask these littles to take that energy, and if they can't receive, they put into the treasure chest and then they take out what they can manage. And it could be all of the energy. So you're going to call all of yourself back. So because you were so afraid of being alone, you attached yourself to the people that are the safest. But then that makes it very unhealthy because you can't be independent. Your
Yeah.
littles are always going to be relying on to survive from another. And then your littles are like, I got to push everybody away. I cannot have a relationship where somebody is close to me because it hurts too damn much. So last night, did that include it in your story?
In a way, yeah.
So notice how your little was like, oh, I called this person in. I can agree with them, so I can keep this identity to keep myself alive. But notice the pain she couldn't process. It's the identity. I've identified myself as this. I can't process this because this is my identity. What's the identity?
Fear, shame, and guilt.
Ah, okay. Is that yours? How did you even know what that is? You had to experience it from the outside. Do you need to keep it to identify yourself?
Uh-oh.
So you have a
No.
whole jar full of love and one jar that has guilt, shame, and whatever the word you used. And it destroyed
Fear.
everything else about you because then joy was interrupted and you put this interrupt on and you wore this interrupt to survive. And you started to create a life from it. Forever keeping yourself away from that joy. We need to get you to return to by removing that interrupt so that you can get back onto the path of joy. So is this identity of avoiding, of attaching, of taking the abuse or giving the abuse the identity you want?
No.
Because it doesn't allow you to learn new skills and to develop. You want to be sigma, you want to be neutral, you want to be love, you want to be unconditional love. But you can't get any of that if these interrupts keep telling you what your identity was. It was an experience. You had to develop this part of you to protect yourself. And anytime it ever came up, you would put all these other parts your way, bring that one up, and that's who you'll be. But is it still serving you to be this?
No.
So when you are
Like,
in joy and
but they don't want to let, there's something that it doesn't want to let go of.
it doesn't want to look at love.
No, it doesn't want to let go of.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha. All right, spirit. What is
Wants
it?
to fight, but there's something it doesn't want to let go of.
Okay, so it's using it as a very much as saying, I have to protect myself from the aggressive energy. And the way they protect themselves is their truth. Okay, so a person in my past we're just going to label them as the enemy. And this person would take one bit of truth and spin a bunch of lies to get people to look at me in a very negative light. I believed they were right until I realized, why am I choosing to believe somebody that hates me that they're right? Then it went into the seed of doubt. Well, what if they're right? But everybody else around them, instead of having the seed of doubt, they just moved with the crowd and go, oh, it's true. And then they would spin stories and they go, yeah, I see it. But the brain can be convinced of anything. And then when that person no longer was in my life, these people that had believed these stories go, well, we never believed it anyway. And I'm thinking, but you have believed them enough that you applied it and attacked me, did all these things. And I'm like, but now you're saying that, oh no, it was just them. I get it. You can't think for yourself. You can't just look at it and say, oh, well, let me get to know the person myself. I didn't hold grudge or anything, but at the same time, it was the wow. I call it the enemy experience. I call it something different else, but I can't say that legally on here. And that is, you just jump to the conclusion. The left brain says, ah. And when that left brain comes up and says that's true, and it's not, notice how your brain is trying to say, I'm a bad kid, when it wasn't true. Notice how, well, people have experiences and they're giving me all the examples. But is it coming from their fear or the way they want to control things and made up lies and you've convinced it must be true?
Their fear in the way that they want to control things.
The idea is you're going to grow with them or you're going to walk away. The old way was for you to walk away. But now you are spiritually growing. That means you have to see why they are showing up the way that you know it. How do you know them? Because this is what you did as a kid. This is what you experienced. This is what you felt. The question is do you need to keep? And that's where that
No.
little, I have to protect myself. Because every time I couldn't, and it always happened, and it couldn't, and it could always happen. And I can't receive. I could. That's what you have to look at, that identity. Remember, you're moving through the stages of the victim, the prostitute, the saboteur, and the child of many faces.
I just heard, I don't have to believe them. No, you don't.
So, when is it that you need to believe them and grow up out of? What part did I play to have them projected to act a certain way?
The
What
victim.
part, huh?
The victim.
Right. So that's what you've got to decide. Do you still want it in your interrupt?
No, I don't.
Do you have to live by the conclusions of your 4-year-old that says this is the correct answer?
Uh-uh.
So, what part did you play? When you look at it, it has to do with, oh, what part do you play? Do you because we play so many scenario games. One of the things that we learned from the Brady Bunch, don't tattletale. Don't
Mm-hmm.
sit there and say, okay, you had an experience one time where you called someone out when then somebody turns around and goes, yeah, but you just did it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What part did you play? What part where you have to sabotage or get? Again, you don't want to be alone, but you have to. Relationships are messy because what did you learn from your family? What did you learn from your culture? What did you learn from your society and traditions? And
Them first.
put them first.
Yep, put them first.
So, in the idea of where you went and called out and says they hurt me, but you just did the very action that you're accusing somebody of, how is that put them first?
It's not, but the ego believes the lie that is being told to the self
Very
that
good.
you were the victim when that's not true.
Right. So now you're getting back into how you know what it is to be the victim and how you can use being the victim to get what you want. So now we're looking at how things serve. You can always be the forever pain and be the walk around wound, which is what you were trying to reinstall last night. And when do people
Yeah.
be accountable for their own actions? When you start to really begin to heal out how you know it, how it serves, what's going on. Because that life force needs to come back in alignment so that your joy can reconnect up. So to protect yourself, you have to make people irrelevant because you were made irrelevant. Do unto others as they did unto me. Is that still true?
No, I'm showing that part or that little that is as simple as dropping a pen to let go
Very
of it.
good. Very good. And does this child still have to take it personal when they go into a shit show and you have to match, mirror, and do this?
I just heard, yeah, no.
Very good. Oops. It's not going to fit. Okay, I'm trying to charge my one phone, but before it dies on me. And it's not working. Okay, I might have done it. Doesn't matter. I don't think anybody's in these rooms anyway. There's a lot to call your power back. And when you feel that when someone explodes that you can't handle it, does that have to be true anymore? Your little kid was
No,
going, but have you helped her? Have you helped it so you push it out, put in the treasure, say, no, even if they explode. So AI says discovering self-governance and letting go of old narrative. Yeah. Okay. So where are you at?
I think I'm at a 0 right now.
Yeah, I do too. So connect up. Feel it. Just feel the energy moving and running and protecting you and downloading joy, because you need to get that joy connectors again, because we are hardwired for joy. And when those 8 extraordinary hardwired energies do not move, it can be very stagnant.
Okay.
So what's your takeaway?
That was very deep, and it it's like when I look, it's actually brighter.
Good.
Um,
So notice how it started to install itself last night. Your brain was saying,
uh-huh.
I reject this, but I'm not going to let you know I reject this. Then it went, the energy went out, started pulling somebody in to help reinforce your old identity. The
Yeah.
question is did you even know what was happening?
No,
And how do you feel about it now? Do you still want it?
no, I don't want that.
Okay. And allowing yourself to become a new identity, not the fragments. Your fragments need to integrate. You still have a lot of growth to do, but you've done a lot of heavy duty lifting and healing and resolving. And can you see a difference?
Yeah, I can. Um it it doesn't seem so hard.
Very good. Now notice that you had to keep seeing how your house was displayed, how your parents reacted, how things of your family were. Even though it feels like you didn't do it in a safe environment, but you did it in a more safe environment, you did it because there's a part of you that says, I'm going to avoid, I'm not going to do this ever again. But your soul is saying, I freaking want to grow.
Hmm.
And I don't feel like your littles are harboring resentment.
Mm-mm.
I think in a way, a little bit, it could have, and it may have. And I think that's why I was trying to reinstall, because it was a safety blanket. But do you feel that it needs to still be there?
No.
Tell people why it's important that you evolve. You're not evolving for the person that hurt you. You're not evolving for the people that where you lost power to. You're not doing it for them. Tell them
You're
why.
you're doing it for yourself so that you can grow and become a better version of yourself. You're doing it for
Right.
you, for those littles that took the abuse, took all of the pain, and are still holding on to it. It's time to help them let go of the pain by holding whatever point. And
And experiencing the shit shows you had when you were a kid. But so this is what's important, because somebody's like, yeah, but if they did it and they're adults and they're doing it now, shouldn't they be? And again, that's ego thought. But you understand, correct, that you called that energy in.
Mm-hmm.
You had to see how your parents or your brother or your family or your neighbors or whoever,
Yeah.
because you can't remember it. So you have to redo it to get to the peak of why that fragment came out, why you still holding on to the intro, why you had to put on a mask. And so healing backwards says, hold on, I'm going to heal this pain, this emotion, and these thoughts. And so the mask will remove itself. I will be able to reinstall my life force, get out of spiritual debt, get out of karmic debt. Correct? You
Mm-hmm.
understand that?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you need to put it into your words so people understand?
Um, it it's about truly becoming your authenticity.
Very good. And so your
And
end goal is that.
yeah, and yesterday a new old piece came up and was ready to be acknowledged, not addressed, not,
This wasn't
but
just an
needed to be
aspect,
seen. No, this is like the true blueprint of who I am.
right? And so it's saying I was denied. But at the same time, it's starting to realize, do I really need to keep the story? I understand I put myself in this position. Now I'm going to get the wisdoms from it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Very
And
good. Very
it
good.
was just this huge realization that, oh my gosh, this part of me has been locked away since it was 6 weeks old.
So almost all 54 years.
Hmm. All but the first 6 weeks.
When you think
And
about it from that perspective as an adult looking down, it's not about feeling sorry for you. It's about what?
it's about going, oh shit, I have to resolve this so that that part of me can actually grow up.
Very good. Because at certain parts of you, when you started to learn certain things, you're like, my life ain't real.
Hmm. Yeah.
That is,
Um, yeah, I was told that I was found in a fence post, and that was funny. Names that they called me were supposed to be cutesy and funny, but they hurt. And I'm like, didn't register then, but yesterday it was registering, and it was like this big it wasn't an explosion, but it was like this big realization of my life was a lie. It wasn't, I mean,
well,
yeah,
everybody's
it
life
wasn't,
is a lie when they get off the joy track.
yeah,
And you have to live by adapting, which is what's normal. But what's not normal is we forgot how to evolve so we can get our health back, so we can stop these particular things from happening. We forgot. And now we're at the stage in this 21st century that says, oh, I don't have to do that anymore.
yeah, no, I don't have to do that anymore.
That's why so many people are waking up, not through doctrine of religion, but spirituality of the soul. So thank
Yeah,
you for giving me your time, and
welcome.
hopefully it has
It's good to
helped.
see you this
And
morning.
what's that?
But it's good to see you this morning. First time I saw you.
Exactly. We kept hitting and missing. But we'll see you tomorrow in Tribal, and that's a good thing. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. So thank you so much, and we'll talk to you later. Love you. Bye.
love you too. Bye.
All right. I know I talk deep. I know the things I teach can be what? But the more you hear it, and the more that whatever's part of your soul is ready, you stay, you listen, and you're like, there's hope. And when you are able to apply and to move forward, it's even more hope because you are ending these karmic loops. You're ending these spiritual debt. You're ending because you're remembering how to resolve. You're remembering how to, instead of have to live in the adaptation, the adaptation process, you are actually getting your ability to resolve, to evolve, and heal instead of deal, and able to take care of the root of the interrupt, so you can get back to joy. I'm just going to double check to see if there's anything else anybody else has sent. And again, if you can support in some form by looking at the Facebook video or pages or the memes and make comments or like or to share, help me get the word out, that'd be great. I appreciate every time you decide to grow and to heal and to do things deeper. You're helping me, you're helping yourself, and you're helping the world. But you're also helping the soul return back to love. That's huge. That's very huge. So you get your sovereignty and your autonomy back when you begin to resolve the emotions and reclaim your power and change the way the mental process of thinking happens, and getting out of the hero's journey and into the healer's journey. Yes, it's returning to love. It may not, everybody's saying, oh, I got to heal this all the time. But when you're returning to love, you have to undo everything you learned to survive. You have to learn that you can thrive by having your life force back and still look at the end goal, that I am neutral, I am Sigma, I am love. And to be able to hold that space and to share it with others, it's a whole new, April Lynn sent me something. I can't remember what it was now, but it had to do with the new persons here. And the new way we cope and handle deal is that we resolve to evolve. And that's who we are. So thank you. Thank you for everything. You are welcome. You are welcome. Okay, so resolve to evolve. Thank you, Spirit. I want you to be aware that you don't have to stunt your growth. You can. You don't have to have drama. You don't have to talk as in the old way of sharing and gossiping and hurting and comparing and conflict. That is old school. That is what our ego is meant to break out of, and that is meant to be where we evolve. You're already blessed. You're already whole. So stay blessed and happy healing. So until next time.